Sports Town podcast, or the STP pod for short. No politics, no drama, no arguing. Just two guys talking sports. I'm your host, JJ Peters. Today on the pod, we will discuss the 2020 NBA virtual draft. But before we get into that, we had a poll question that you can vote every Tuesday, or technically you can vote it every Monday and Wednesday. You can vote on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And the question was, who goes number one tonight in the draft, LaMelo Ball or Anthony Edwards? And the results are in, and Anthony Edwards is running away with it. Also, we got some NBA moves in the offseason recently, and it first starts with Al Horford getting traded. Al Horford has been traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder along with a second-round pick this year, a 2025 unprotected first round, and the draft rights of their first-round pick from 2014. He's from Serbia, Vasilij Misic. Misic is still currently in the Turkish league and has been selected to the first All-Europe team. Al Horford's massive contract the Philadelphia 76ers were able to make the move by trading Al Horford's massive contract. The Sixers received Terrence Ferguson and Danny Green. Danny Green was recently traded from the Lakers to the Thunder on Tuesday for point guard Dennis Schroeder. So now Green has been traded to two teams within the last 2 days. Green is a three-time NBA champion with the Spurs, Raptors, and Lakers. Also, Bogdan Bogdanovic plans to enter free agency. The Milwaukee Bucks traded for Drew Holiday on Monday and thought they had acquired Bogdanovic on a sign-and-trade deal. However, that's not the case, and Bogdanovic plans to enter free agency when it begins on Friday, November 20th. Milwaukee is desperately trying to keep Antetokounmpo from entering free agency and leaving the Bucks. The Bucks are hoping to sign Bogdanovic to a contract and officially have him become a Milwaukee Buck. Some bad news for Warriors fans. Klay Thompson will likely miss the rest of the season with an MCL tear. Thompson missed the entire 2019/2020 season. According to Mark Spears of the Mothership, or ESPN, he said the injury is simply not good. Thompson is in danger of missing a second straight season. 2 seasons ago, Klay Thompson played in his last game in Game 6 of the NBA Finals when the Warriors fell to the Raptors. Klay Thompson last offseason signed a supermax contract with the Warriors that was up to 4 years. So to start the draft, the 2020 NBA draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Anthony Edwards. Not much of a surprise. I think Anthony Edwards, and a lot of people thought he would be the number one pick. He fits well with what the Timberwolves want to do. Now, LaMelo Ball, in my opinion, was the best prospect, but the problem with him is he is a point guard first, and I don't think that would work well with D'Angelo Russell, who they just acquired last trade deadline from the Brooklyn Nets. So, or not the Brooklyn Nets, excuse me, but yeah, the Timberwolves were able to acquire from the Golden State Warriors last trade deadline. And I don't think that would make sense to draft LaMelo Ball, especially when you got a player of D'Angelo Russell's caliber. So I think it's a good pick for Anthony Edwards. I think he'll be a big factor right away, and I'll give him an A- for the pick. The number 2 pick in the 2020 NBA draft, the Golden State Warriors select James Wiseman. James Wiseman was a solid player at Memphis despite only playing 3 games. A lot of people said he would have been the best prospect if they would have saw more in the Memphis product. James Wiseman's a nice pick for the Warriors, especially with them really only having a position need at the 5. Now they lack depth and they're just not very good at that position. Now Klay Thompson did get injured, so that's big. They probably need to replace him for this year as well. But drafting LaMelo Ball wouldn't have made really much sense because after this year they'd have Klay Thompson come back and LaMelo wouldn't really fit the Warriors system quite like James Wiseman will, because James Wiseman will be good in the long run, not necessarily the future, but he'll be good for a Golden State team that's probably going to be playing in the playoffs again next season. With the 3rd pick in the draft, the Charlotte Hornets select LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball, again, as I have said, he is the best prospect in the draft, but the Charlotte Hornets are going to use him the best way. Now, they do have both Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier. One of them is probably getting traded. I'm assuming Devontae Graham gets moved. LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier can both kind of take time doing the 1 and 2. But I think that's going to be a nice fit, especially with how good LaMelo is. And Terry Rozier had a nice year last year, too. Now, it's going to be interesting to see if LeVar Ball is allowed inside the Hornets facility. I doubt he's going to be, especially with him and Michael Jordan kind of having a little bit of a beef. But and I don't think LeVar really has much of a connection now with his son like he did with Lonzo. But I do think LaMelo will be a nice fit with the Hornets. He's a solid player. He's going to probably be their best player in a few years. And LaMelo Ball is clearly the future of the Charlotte Hornets. A good pickup by Michael Jordan, the Hornets. I'm probably going to give that an A+. We have our first surprise of the draft. That's the Chicago Bulls selecting Patrick Williams out of FSU. I thought the Bulls originally were going to take Obi Toppin or the kid out of Israel, but That's not the case, and they go the. A lot of people are shocked. I'm just going to say that Patrick Williams is a nice prospect. I just didn't think he was worth the top 5 pick. I could see later in anywhere from 6 to 10, but number 4 is a little bit of a reach for the Bulls. But Billy Donovan is now the coach. He knows what he's doing. He had success with the Thunder. Before that, he was great at the University of Florida. So I'm not really doubting Billy Donovan, the Bulls, but this team, I'm not sure they really needed a guy like that. I thought Obi Toppin would have been a better fit, but the Bulls have decided to go with that, and I'm probably going to go with a C- on that pick. With the 5th pick in the draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers kind of take a surprise. Isaac Okoro. Now, Isaac Okoro is a nice fit. I just didn't think he'd quite was worth the top 5 pick. But, the Cavs have a lot of needs, and why not just take the best player who they thought was? I don't know what the Cavs are really, what direction they're going into. Are they rebuilding, or are they trying to compete for a championship? There was rumors that they were interested in Ben Simmons. But I mean, is Kevin Love still the same player he used to be? Is not Victor Garland, is Darius Garland and Colin Sexton your future at the 1 and the 2? But Isaac Okoro was a nice fit with Cleveland. I just think it's a little interesting that they took him at 5 when, again, Obi Toppin and Denny Advia was still available. So I'm going to probably give that a C+. With the 6th pick in the draft, the Atlanta Hawks, I do like this pick here, Onyeka Okongwu. Now, Onyeka is a very good player. He played at Chino Hills back when the Ball brothers were playing, went undefeated, won a championship, then went to the University of Southern California. It's a solid fit. He's a can't-miss product. Again, the Hawks are a very young squad. They're probably not going to be competing in the playoffs this year or next year, but in a few years, this team could be very good. He fits their team very well, and of course, they got guys like Trae Young, Darius Garland, or not Darius Garland, sorry. They got Cam Reddish, they just have a nice team, and I like the direction the Hawks are going. So taking this guy is a good option for Atlanta. I'm going to give this an A+. With 7th pick in the draft, the Detroit Pistons select Killian Hayes. Killian Hayes is a nice fit here with the Pistons. They, of course, like Cleveland, have a lot of needs. Again, I don't know what direction they're going into. Are they trying to rebuild? Are they trying to compete for the playoffs? I just don't know what they're doing. Derrick Rose played with the Pistons last year. Blake Griffin was once again injured. It's just, I don't know what Detroit is really doing, but I do think Killian Hayes is a nice pick for the Pistons. He'll be a big factor right away. But I'm not sure exactly how well he'll do because, again, the Pistons have been a train wreck for the last 10, 15 years. So I don't know how well Killian Hayes will play, but we'll see what he happens. I'm going to give this about a B- on my grade. With the 8th pick in the draft, the New York Knicks get a steal, and for once, the Knicks actually get what they wanted. They select Obi Toppin out of Dayton. The college basketball player of the year is headed to his hometown state in New York. Very emotional after a draft. It was great to see what happened with Toppin because, again, he was very emotional after the draft or after the pick. He'll be a nice fit for the Knicks. Again, I thought he was a wild card to possibly go number 1. I had him locked up to going to the Bulls at 4, but I mean, he's such a good player, one of the best athletes in the draft. He even said that he wasn't able to dunk until he was 17 his senior year. Very late bloomer, but my goodness, has he taken off, and he was a big flyer for the Flyers. So nice pick by the Knicks. I'm going to give him an A+ on this pick, and they didn't have to reach either. So that's great news. Speaking of steals, the Washington Wizards get Denny Advia from Israel. This is the highest player ever selected from Tel Aviv. Great pick by the Wizards because this guy is also a can't-miss prospect. This guy could turn into the next Luka Doncic, and this guy is a solid player. I mean, you really can't say anything wrong about this guy's game. A lot of people are calling him the Jewish Jordan, which is crazy to think. But the Wizards, I think this guy will play right away, especially with John Wall. Not going to be able to go right away when the season starts. Bradley Beal is going to be their only really offense, and when they get a guy like this, their offense is definitely going to. You're definitely going to notice on their offense. The number 10th pick, the Phoenix Suns kind of take a shock here, but Jalen Smith. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of this pick right away, but realizing what this kid was capable of doing, again, I didn't watch a lot of Maryland games, but this guy's a great shot blocker. He's a great rim protector. He put up 40 pounds when he entered the University of Maryland because he was only 185. By the time he graduated or by the time he was done at Maryland, he was 225 pounds. This guy is crazy. And, of course, he's got a great work ethic. His dad was a military man. This culture is great for a team, especially trying to win now when they just acquired Chris Paul. I like this pick a lot. I'm going to give this an A-. Jalen Smith, nice addition to the team, especially with them needing some more rim protectors. They have DeAndre Ayton, but now they can add another player like Jalen Smith. The 11th pick in the draft, it's weird to see San Antonio selecting, but They go ahead and select Devin Vassell, the product out of FSU. Now, I like this pick a lot because a good shooter. He's a very good wing defender. The Spurs really need this. They haven't really had someone like that since they traded Kawhi Leonard away. Again, I don't think the Spurs will be competing for the next few years, which is kind of disappointing because I'm myself a Spurs fan. So it's kind of hard to see, but I do think Devin Vassell can pave the direction, especially with how well the Spurs are at drafting players and producing very good talent. It's going to be interesting what the Spurs do, but I think Devin Vassell is a great way for the Spurs to start the season. I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it an A minus on that pick. There were some more steals. The Sacramento Kings, like the Knicks, I was kind of shocked they actually got the player they wanted and a good fit. Tyrese Halliburton out of Iowa State fell all the way to the Kings' hands. Now, if you really look at this, you're like, why are the Kings taking Tyrese Halliburton when they already have a point guard in De'Aaron Fox and they have Buddy Hield, so they can't play them both at the same time? But the reason why is there's rumors that De'Aaron Fox isn't sure he's interested in playing the remainder of his career with the Sacramento Kings. So, of course, taking Tyrese Halliburton, a guy that can be the future at the point guard position. And there's even been rumors that Buddy Hield wants out. He just recently signed a new deal with the Kings, but he could be traded. A lot of people are asking for Buddy Hield, and the Kings are kind of still wanting to know what they want to do with him. But I like this pick a lot. I'm going to give this an A+. The New Orleans Pelicans select Kira Lewis Jr., a guy that can pair up with Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. He's a nice option. I think I'm probably going to give this a B-. There's not a lot to say about him. He's a good product. I just don't think he'll play right away, and you won't see much from him for the first few years just because this Pelicans team is just loaded with young talent in Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. Jackson Hayes is a nice fit for them, or a nice pick for them. They still have Lonzo. So I just don't know how well he's gonna do. I'm gonna probably give this a B- or C+ because this guy at one time was projected to be in the top 10. So the Pelicans kind of got a steal here. David Griffin's doing an excellent job there in New Orleans. And last but not least, in the lottery, the Boston Celtics also get another steal. Aaron Naismith. That was crazy. The Boston Celtics have been able to acquire all these picks despite always being in contention. They made the Eastern Conference Finals last year. And guess what? They ended up with the 14th pick, and they get a nice addition. Aaron Naismith out of Vanderbilt. He's a great shooter, great defender. I don't know if he'll play right away. He'll probably be in the G League team because the Celtics don't have a lot of room left on their roster, and they ended up having 3 first-rounders that included this one. So I like the Celtics pick here. I think Aaron Naismith's a good addition. I think he'll, like, similar to Lewis for the Pelicans, I think he won't play right away. Again, I think he's going to be in the G League. But this guy can definitely continue to work on his craft, and this guy's going to be a solid player. Definitely going to be a huge factor in the Boston Celtics' future going forward. Well, that's a wrap for this amazing episode. Thanks for listening to the Sports Town Podcast, or the STP Pod for short. You can find us on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and much more. We release new episodes every Wednesday and Friday. If you haven't subscribed yet, just hit that button on the right. Don't forget to like, comment, and rate. Also, if you wanted to check out the other videos, just click the button on the left.